That alone, verse number 77. The one beyond is sky, the all-pervasive energy is wind, knowledge is fire, senses are water, objects of interest are earth. Thus, as five principles, this is ever blazing. The secret of this is one. Commentary. This verse is difficult to understand just by reading through it. One needs to meditate on it to gain a unitive picture of what is being presented. It is to be understood in the light of the traditional philosophy and psychology of not only Vedanta, but most of the other Indian schools of thought as well. The Sankhyan theory views this world as a binary function of spirit, Purusha, and a creative function, Prakriti. The duality implied in this is acceptable to some schools and not to others. We are mainly following the school of Vedanta, which does not accept duality. At the same time, we do experience it in our everyday life, and it needs to be explained properly. For this reason, Vedantins tentatively accept the Sankhyan hypotheses for reconsideration, re-evaluation, and restatement. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Prakriti or nature is said to consist of 8 basic principles: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intellect, and ego. These are actually the evolutes of Prakriti, which, in the evaluation of Vedanta, can be combined with Purusha into one Purushottama, a cosmic being or entity. Prakriti in its unexpended form consists of sattva, rajas, and tamas, taken as a whole. These 3 gunas are primeval causes and not the effects of anything. Then there are the 5 tanmatras, things in themselves, which are the prakritis of the 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. In this verse, Narayana Guru is presenting a global picture. He says the secret of the tanmatras, which are ever blazing as 5 principles, is unitive, is one. Although we can only translate erium as burning or blazing, it is to be understood in the same sense as in the expression the sun is burning, in that it remains as an unexpended reality while continuously radiating its energy. The 5 principles are forever operating in just the same way, so the final meaning we derive from erium is functioning. One principle is functioning as 5 aspects. The one principle is not given any name here. The Guru just says ekam, one. This is to be taken as the ground. The vertical pole is param, the beyond. Between these two, everything is placed. The beyond is here termed vinna, a special word which both can and cannot be translated as ether. It means the sky, as one experiences it above as the beyond. It is the farthest you can look into space, where you get an idea of its infinitude. Contrasting with this, ekam is experienced as the existential ground, subsistential ground, value ground, and the ground of everything. Thus we have transcendence and immanence coexisting in one single principle. The beyond has the force of transcendence, and the one spoken of here inheres within it all the immanent principles as well as this transcendence. It is transcendent and not transcendent, immanent and not immanent all at once. How do we conceive of the transcendent and the immanent as one and the same? Immanence suggests a content which is pervasive. It can be viewed as consciousness or the content of consciousness, or consciousness itself can be the quality of what is immanent. There is a togetherness, a sense of closeness, very much of an identification with it. When you say transcendence, on the other hand, your consciousness is pushed to the farthest point to which it can go, beyond which it recoils upon itself. You have no grasp of it. Is it that or not that? Is a question that cannot be answered. All you can say is, I do not know. But remember, there is still a certitude in saying you don't know. You have to somehow conceive of a totality and then subtract from it all you are aware of, not only that which you are consciously aware of, but also that which you have the possibility of somehow knowing. The known and the knowable are put together and subtracted from a conceived totality. What is left is an indescribable state called the transcendent. Here the transcendent is considered to be just one aspect of the unnameable one. We have now marked a ground for us to sit and meditate upon, as well as the farthest limit. Narayana Guru says we should understand that Param, the transcendent, is symbolized by Vinnu, what you perceive as the farthest distance in the sky, beyond which you cannot think. When you mentally produce a height or distance where you approach a horizon beyond which it is meaningless to make any supposition, that is to be understood as Vinnu. We have to give a content to the immanent. The Guru says, Parama Shakti Kartam. Paranna is that which spreads out, radiates, distributes itself horizontally. Paranna Shakti is any force that distributes itself, any force that goes from one thing to another, or any energy that radiates, conducts, or propagates itself. Up to now we have been using only our own consciousness to make images of the two concepts of the transcendent and the ground. There was no sense of function in them. In this verse, Narayana Guru introduces functionality, which is important to take note of. In us also, there is a witnessing consciousness and a functional aspect, and you should clearly observe these two aspects in yourself. When you laugh or cry, there is an unaffected consciousness within you that watches while you are having the experience. As you cry, you may sometimes feel that it is nonsense, but you can't help it. It's almost as if somebody else is finding fault with you. That fault finding is not coming from the witnessing consciousness, which is perfectly neutral. The witnessing consciousness reports to some other faculty within you that in its turn becomes ashamed of what you are doing. If you want to control your laughter and find you cannot, you think, what a shame, I can't even stop laughing. The central awareness that is persistent throughout these experiences is the consciousness with which you arrive at the notion of the ground and the transcendent beyond. Anything that has content, anything that is functional, anything that has structure, form, and name, all come under the term Shakti. Kartam, air, corresponds to Shakti. It is not just air, but air that moves, that is energized. The analogy of wind is used here. Wind has force in it, and that force gives it content. Next, knowledge is equated with fire. Arive analan. The knowledge by which you know immanence, the knowledge by which you know transcendence, the knowledge by which you know force, and the knowledge by which you see all modifications. All these are symbolized by fire. Fire can be an unseen thermal energy that keeps things warm. You don't see any fire in your body, but it does have a measurable warmth which indicates fire is present. Fire can, of course, also be seen as a candle burning, smoke smoldering, sparks flying, or even a big conflagration blazing. In a red-hot iron ball, the iron is not fire, but the thermal action taking place at the molecular level is. Like the fire which manifests in so many forms, knowledge manifests in many ways, from unconscious reflex actions to the most profound thoughts and the highest forms of meditative awareness. Its nature cannot be fixed. Water here is used to symbolize the sense organs. Actually, each sense is associated with a different one of the 5 elements: the organ of hearing with the sky, the organ of sight with fire, the organ of touch with wind, and so on. But here all the 5 organs are grouped under the perpetual function, which is compared with water. Water is traditionally looked upon as the symbol of the vital functions. Although vitality comes from prana and is therefore usually related to the air or wind, because of the moods, feelings, and emotions associated with the senses, it is here linked with the water element. This makes more sense in the context of the comparison of the object of the senses, indriyartham, with earth. Earth is considered the object of the senses. Take an object of sense such as the pleasure of touching a body. When you touch, you don't need your eyes or ears for the experience. You can turn away from whatever you are touching and look within for its effect. You may have a feeling of pressure or roughness or smoothness, and the feeling of liking or not liking it. There is a physical content to it as well as a psychological content. The senses themselves should have a homogeneity with the objects of interest. Just as water and earth can easily mix to varying degrees, the participation between the senses and their objects occurs in a variety of ways. The vibrations that make up the form of music come to you. You don't have to reach for them. The ear just catches them. Music is like an electrical energy that flows to you effortlessly. Enjoying a good meal is very different in this regard. Although it is equally an object of the senses, one just comes to you, the other you have to grapple with, so to speak. But in both these is a flow between the psychic aspect which enjoys and the physical equipment of the body, which has to relate itself to the corresponding objects of sense. They flow together, becoming almost identical. Therefore, water and earth are put together here. So in these 5 principles, we have the sense object, the sense interest, the experiencing of that interest, the knowledge of experiencing the interest, the energy by which all these can be spread out within the limits of the beyond, and the ground. This gives a total picture, with nothing left out of the scheme. Nothing is either rejected or given an exaggerated prominence. Life and all its experiences are accepted and are put together in such a beautiful way that they all fit in. Knowing this integrated scheme brings you great peace by unifying all the seemingly disjunct experiences. You are in the transactional world simultaneously with being in the highest meditative state, since you understand that one is not opposed to the other. On the battlefield, Arjuna was asked to meditate on the Absolute and also to fight. Fighting on a battlefield is the most immediate activity possible in the transactional world, with swinging clubs, shooting arrows, and ruthless killing all around. Meditating means to be in a state of beatitude, of transcendence. These two look absolutely contradictory, but there is no such paradox existing in the mind of one who has a unitive understanding. Narayana Guru is giving us a scheme with the help of certain analogies. When you piece all the analogies together, you get a unitive picture, at least schematically. That unitive picture can then be used as a base for meditation, and it can be lived. The first thing to meditate on is the beyond, the farthest to which you can go. Then bring yourself to the ground. Now you have a whole field to experience. If you consider the whole field as the total reality of the one who experiences, without creating a duality between the experiencer and the experienced, you get an idea of the one. This can be apprehended by an ascending and descending movement of consciousness, which also spreads out in all directions. This automatically brings you to all the horizontal forces which operate to fill the field. Now give it a nucleus as the knowledge that knows, both in general and in all the special applications. Give tools to that central consciousness by allowing it to animate the senses. The senses here means action as well as perception. They need counterparts for the eyes to see, the hands to work, the legs to walk, the tongue to taste, the nose to smell and breathe, and the ears to hear. When you put all these counterparts together, nothing is left outside. It is one compact whole. When you look at it in this way, you become humble. You are filled with reverence, with a sense of adoration for all this which is happening. Something that is more than a cosmic function is operating within you, a tiny individual. The individual transforms into the totality, and the totality becomes epitomized in the individual. Both of these are happening side by side. This gives a sense of unity, the idea of the one. And the free translation of verse 77 is as follows. The self and the world are not two. The transcendental is the sky. The horizontal blast of energy is the wind. Knowledge is fire. The senses are water. Objects of interest are earth. That which shines forth as the quintessence of these five principles is in truth only one.